Bufo has completely destroyed my life and it might destroy your life too, so you gotta be careful on how you approach this. Hey everybody, my name is Iggy and I help leaders to liberate themselves, become magnetic by being their most authentic self. And I wanna in this video talk to you about a very powerful plant medicine called Bufo and how it has completely changed my life forever. So if you don't know, Bufo is called 5-MEO DMT and is basically the purest form of any plant medicine. So when people drink ayahuasca, DMT is what you get when you mix chacruna with the mariri to become the power of ayahuasca. And the most important thing of that is the DMT. Our bodies naturally produce DMT, but when we consume that, we're able to tap into higher states of consciousness. When we take Bufo, which comes from the frog, the toad, normally in Mexico, Central America, is where we are consuming the purest form of DMT, which is the 5-MEO. So not synthetic, natural. Now, in my own experience, when I did Bufo for the first time, it completely shattered my entire life. And I didn't know that until later. But back then, it was back in 2022 where I was struggling a lot and I didn't know why. I was going through nearly a depression, but the hardest thing about that depression was I was at the best I was in my whole life. I was living exactly the life I wanted to, but I didn't find myself being happy. Back then I had a marketing agency for conscious leaders and I was making good money. I was living in a beautiful villa in Bali. I created everything that I worked so hard to create, but I was feeling horrible in the inside. And I didn't know what was missing, because that is the hardest thing. Once you achieve everything that you desire and you don't feel happy, you don't know why. You thought that that would bring you happiness, and that's where I was. So I go to a friend's birthday party, and in this party I meet a guy who I've met a couple of times, and he spent a lot of years in the monk monasteries, learning from Buddhist monks. And maybe I said monkeys, my apologies. And then when we were talking, he told me that he did Bufo for the first time. He didn't want to tell me what it exactly was, but he gave me the contact of someone who could do it for me. And so I went ahead. The moment that he told me that, I knew I was meant to listen to that information. I knew I was in that party for that reason. So a few weeks later, I go and I meet the shaman, which is incredible. And he held a space for me. So how we did Bufo, I want to share with you my process. There's many different processes, but I believe if you're thinking about doing it, I would encourage you for you to find someone who does this exact same process, because I've heard horror stories of other people where it can be such an explosion of consciousness that you have no idea of what happened. And it can be really hard for you to integrate. And that's when your life gets destroyed. So the way that we did was the handshake. So each hit of Bufo that you smoke on a vape, it was increasing by each session. So he gave me the handshake, so I welcome the medicine in, I fill in, and then I go through a small journey. I come back off this journey, I talk with the shaman, and we do some integration while he's playing music and so on. So he helps me to make sense of what's happening. And then he asks me, do you want more medicine? And I say, yes, a little bit more. And it keeps increasing. And then I did 5 doses of Bufo. This process, you're not just bursting through with so much force of what you've created, the constructs and the suffering and all the things that are limiting us, is gradually getting there, which is helping your mind to make sense of what's happening. I heard stories of people that had depression, people who couldn't sleep for months after doing Bufo, had panic attacks and so on, which it can happen if you don't have the right facilitator. Also, if you don't have the tools and the knowledge and the support for you to navigate through your life later. Because here's the thing, you go in this explosion of consciousness and your mind is seeing reality for the first time in ways it's never seen before. That's how I would describe Bufo. It's the highest form of consciousness that we can experience. It's almost experiencing God living through us, looking at things and realizing that nothing is really material and everything is just a creation of your consciousness. It's insane, but it's real. Now, I'm blessed that to the state that I took myself in for my first time I did Bufo, I had a lot of tools. I was already a breathwork facilitator. I come from a family of healers in Brazil. I've done ayahuasca before, mushrooms, so I was pretty good navigating through it. But you will need tools and resources that will help you to integrate this journey. What happened for me after Bufo is that my business was thriving really well. I was literally getting the things that I wanted in my business. After Bufo, for about 8 months, I didn't get a single client. For a lot of people, that would be the end of the world for them. But I was kind of laughing. I knew that that was happening for a reason. And my reason was because my business was out of alignment. I was doing things that I was not passionate about. And when you raise your consciousness and you are able to see things for what they truly are, it's hard for you to force things. I was operating in a business, doing work that I didn't like to do, stretching myself to the limits of the limits because of fear and ego. Now, if your ego dissolves and you understand that when you are pure consciousness and you are literally God within you experiencing yourself, there is no fear. Therefore, you cannot create things out of fear. For it becomes really hard to do it. And when you do it, you're now aware of it, so you don't want to do it. So if your life is really out of alignment, it's important for you to know that things will probably fall out of your life. But this is the process of clearing for you to be living the life that you truly meant to be living, the life that you've chosen for you to live, your mission, your purpose, the person who you are here to be, and not the conditioned person that came to this life to be in a certain way. So the lessons I've learned in Bufo, they were completely life-changing. But here's the thing, if I only learned those lessons by myself and I didn't have an amazing shaman to hold space for me and helping me to integrate, my life would have been a lot harder because I would have to figure out on my own. And I want to share with you some of the things that I've learned from him that help me to navigate. The main thing that we need to do is to understand that in life, there are no limits. The only limits we find in life are the limits that we create for ourselves. If the reality of life is that there are no limits and we create limits, that means we are living distant from God, basically. Every time that I create a limit is further from the truth. And really what we're looking to do is to move closer to the truth when we go into these journeys. We're not becoming more confident, more successful. This is attachment. We're moving closer to the truth because the truth will set you free. So the path for this in a very simple manner is to take life with curiosity. Instead of having answers for everything in your life, well, I can't do this because of that, or it's going to be really hard if I take this path because of this. I'm like, says who? This is our projections based on our past experiences that we created through our conditioned self. When we become free of those conditionings and we're able to see things for what they truly are, we are opening up to infinite possibilities. And you can go back to the old self and it becomes a lot harder because now you are conscious and aware and you're still choosing to live that way, and that's a choice and that's totally okay. Or you recreate your life based on limitlessness. And the path to that is curiosity. Is what if I could have everything I desire? What if everything I desire is already waiting for me? And from that place of curiosity, what if? What's possible? What is available? We start to ask better questions. What you understand from a place of high consciousness like Bufo is that all the questions that you ask, you will receive the answer. The problem is that we haven't been asking the right questions. So most people, they will ask, why am I so stuck in life? The answers you're gonna get is all the reasons why you are stuck in life. And that's what's gonna be reinforced in your life. Why, I once in my journey, I remember on a mushroom journey, I asked, it's such a painful place to be. And I asked this question, why am I so messed up? And I remember, I really felt that I was completely messed up. Luckily, through that question, I had awareness of my relationship with myself and how I saw myself and how I would speak with myself. That took me on a journey of self-love, self-appreciation, and really becoming whole and complete, loving who I am. But because I asked these types of questions and I saw myself that way, that's what kept getting projected to me. So when we ask better questions, we get better answers that are leading us to where we want to be. So for example, instead of asking, how can I make more money or how can I be more successful, is what would it take for me to create a life of abundance? What space, energy, and consciousness do I need to be in to attract my dream partner or my dream house? I'm not focusing on the how, I'm focusing on being. And as I ask these questions, they start to come to us in dreams, intuition, in meditation, breathwork journeys, And this is the work that we need to do, to always listen to the answers. Because if we're just asking the questions, first of all, we never answer. Second, we gotta question, we gotta ask the questions, and we gotta be open to listen to our intuition and what it's saying. The way we do this is through work, breath work, meditation, yoga, being in nature, plant medicines, praying. And when we do this, we're able to lead our lives in better ways. But you gotta be able to release, surrender, and trust this path that your highest consciousness is taking you, because you're no longer going to lead your life through fear and insecurities and shame and guilt, and you're going to start leading your life through more love, presence, integrity, peace. So I hope this was helpful. If you need help and if you have questions about Bufo, just reach out to me, especially on Instagram. It's easier, but you can comment on this video as well and ask me your questions, and I will be making more videos about this. And if you like more videos about this and expressing your highest form of expression, which is your authentic self, subscribe for more videos. And I hope this was helpful. Much love. Thank you.